Good morning. Happy Friday. I'm Greg Schaefer. Welcome to the Virtual CISO Moments Infosec Wrap-Up for Friday, September 1st, 2023. Yes, it is September. Welcome back, college football. From TechCrunch, Forever 21 data breach affects 500,000 people. A data breach notice filed with the Maine's Attorney General said that the fashion giant was hacked over a 3-month period beginning with early January during 2023, during which intruders obtained files from its systems. The data included the usual stuff, personal information of current and former employees, said public relations firm FTI Consulting in an email to TechCrunch. According to the notice, Forever 21 notified 539,207 people that the breach data included, this is the usual stuff, their name, date of birth, bank account number, as well as social security number, and information regarding employees' Forever 21 health plan, including enrollment and premiums paid. Forever 21 did not describe the incident beyond a breach of its systems, but noted that, quote, Forever 21 has taken steps to help assure the unauthorized third party no longer has access to the data. Now, it's not clear how Forever 21 obtained this claim of assurance. The ambiguous wording of the notice could imply that the company paid the hacker in exchange for deleting the data. They paid the ransom. It's not uncommon for ransomware and extortion groups to threaten to publish the data if they steal, if the victim does not meet a ransom demand. But security experts have long said it's not possible to trust when a threat actor has deleted the data as claimed, trusting someone who's just committed a crime and stolen your data. Brian Krebs reports the U.S. government announced a coordinated crackdown against QuackBot, a complex malware family used by multiple crime groups to lay the groundwork for ransomware infections. The international law enforcement operation involved seizing control over the botnet's online infrastructure and quietly removing the QuackBot malware from tens of thousands of infected Windows computers. Now, in an international operation announced that was dubbed Duck Hunt, it's clever, the U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ, because we love acronyms, and Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, because of the same, said they obtained court orders to remove QuackBot from infected devices and to seize servers used to control the botnet. Quote, this is the most significant technological and financial operation ever led by the Department of Justice against a botnet. Seems like everyone successive is the most significant, just growing. This, according to Martin Estrada, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of California, at a press conference this morning in Los Angeles, or this morning when Krebs wrote the article. Estrada said that QuackBot has been implicated in 40 different ransomware attacks over the past 18 months, intrusions that collectively cost victims more than $58 million in losses. Emerging in 2007, you may remember as a banking Trojan, those of us who have been in banking for some while, QuackBot, aka QBot, and PinkSlipBot has morphed into an advanced malware strain now used by multiple criminal groups to prepare newly compromised networks for ransomware infections and infestations. QuackBot is most commonly delivered via email phishing lures disguised as something legitimate and time-sensitive, such as invoices or work orders. vCISO Services is a small, specialized, veteran-owned information security firm with a calling, founded on Christian values and focused on the needs of small and mid-sized businesses. Our passion is to help small and mid-sized businesses gain a fighting chance in an increasingly hostile cybersecurity threat environment by providing executive part-time virtual CISO services, information security risk management services, and CISO advisory services. Check them out at vcisoservices.com. From Security Week, the cyber insurance industry is maturing. In its early days, it simply asked cyber risk questions, just a few questions with regards to cyber risk. You lost money. Insurers do not like to lose money. They're asking more questions now and have increased premiums, exclusions, and referrals. Now, this has created a gap between insurers and insured, a gap between insurance wishes and insurance reality, and a gap between policy requests and policy delivery. A survey of more than 300 U.S. organizations conducted by Census-Wide for Delinea seeks to understand the nature and effect of this cyber insurance gap and how it may be closed. Now, the background is strong support and desire for cyber insurance from the board. Businessmen understand the nature of insurance. They should be business people, I think. The nature of risk transfer and the ability of insurance to ameliorate catastrophic loss. Boards sometimes require their organizations to purchase cyber insurance, sometimes are contractually required to have cyber insurance and are largely willing to fund it. And some details, that said, board budget support has dropped by 13%, from 94% to 81% this last year. This may partially be due to the current economic uncertainty, but may also be due to the increased requirements of the cyber insurance industry. 67% of respondents reported that their cyber insurance costs increased by between 50 and 100% in 2023. The overall message from the survey, you can check out more numbers from there, just check on the link in the show notes to the article, is that cyber insurance is no longer something that can simply be tacked on to cybersecurity. If an organization decides to include cyber insurance within its total cyber risk management posture, that cyber insurance must be fully integrated with the organization's cybersecurity posture, and I would add integrated with the organization's overall risk management framework and strategy. According to Forbes, a fake version of the private messaging app Signal has found its way onto Google Play. Not good. It appears to be linked to a Chinese spy operation. Researchers claimed this past week. The hackers, dubbed by researchers as cybersecurity company ESET as GREF, we'll call it Gref, not Greg, but Gref, also released a version on Samsung's Galaxy Store. The main aim of the fake Signal, which was called Signal Plus Messenger and functioned the same as the legit version, is to spy on communications of the real app, according to ESET researcher Lucas Stefanko. The standard version of Signal allows users to link the mobile app to their desktop or Apple iPad. The malicious Signal Plus Messenger abused that feature by automatically connecting the compromised device to the attacker's signal in the background, so all messages were passed on to their account. That happens, quote, without the user noticing anything very bad or accepting the notification. It's all done in silence. According to Stefanko, who published a blog and a YouTube video on the machinations of this attack, this was the first documented case of spying on a victim's signal via secret auto-linking. While the attacks have shown that Chinese linked hackers have found a way to get around security checks by two of the world's biggest tech companies, it also marks an unprecedented attempt to snoop on Signal's communications. Signal president Meredith Whitaker told Forbes, quote, "We're glad that the Play Store took this pernicious software masquerading as Signal off their platform, and we hope that they do more in the future to prevent predatory scams via their platform. We're deeply concerned for anyone who trusted and downloaded this app. We urge Samsung and others to move rapidly to remove this malware." Here's an interesting article that kind of touches to something that I talk about a lot. Frank Dumizio, in a soft side of cyber blog post, says that in cybersecurity, a hidden adversary often goes unnoticed. The toll it takes on mental health. The demands of safeguarding sensitive data, thwarting cyber attacks, being connected 24/7 by 365, and staying ahead in an increasingly complex field can extract a heavy toll on cybersecurity professionals' well-being. As we delve into the digital realm, he says, it's crucial to shine a light on the intersection of cybersecurity and mental health. Despite the critical role we play, cybersecurity professionals often suffer in silence. The nature of our work demands discretion and confidentiality, which can inadvertently extend to our own personal struggles. The fear of admitting vulnerability in a field that centers around strength and invincibility can prevent individuals from seeking the help they need. This lack of understanding from outsiders can compound the issue. Friends and family may not grasp the intricacies of the job and the toll it takes, leading to isolation. This isolation can further exacerbate stress and mental health concerns. So the reason why I want to put this on here is that those of you who are regular listeners know that one of the questions I ask my guests is on the Virtual CISO Moment interview segment, of which I've done 95 and counting. I'll ask everybody, what do you do to decompress? How do you get away from the stress? We all have to decompress and do it in a healthy manner. Now, I speak from experience. One of my jobs in my past, I won't say which one, it was a toxic work environment and it took its toll on me. I turned to decompress actions that, shall we say, were not the most healthy, and I suffered for it. Now, the best way that I dealt with this situation was getting out. I've said that beforehand, just leave. It's not worth your health. But I understand that often that's easier said than done. In my case, it took me about a year before I found the position I wanted to move on to. My opinion, though, is that if you can answer the questions often asked is what keeps you up at night with some sort of work-related concern, you need to change jobs. Now, I know that's my opinion, but in my opinion, the trade-off on health just isn't worth it. I mean, I've seen a lot. I'm 56 years old and fortunately still in pretty decent health. Part of that is because I learned how to decompress. For me, a lot of it is working out, reading, Bible, church, family, whatever you do, make sure you get away. Finally, today's list. I have a list for you today. I'm so excited whenever I find one. And sometimes it's because somebody posts something on LinkedIn and I'm like, that's going to make a great list. Well, here we go with one. Now, the whole rule of the list thing that I've said before is that I go off the title. I don't read it beforehand so that I can give you my reactions here on the virtual CISO moment. Real time, not preparing. Very scary. This comes to us from Tech Target, and it is SEC Cyber Attack Regulations Prompt 10 questions for CISOs. Okay, well, that sounds good. I'm going to have a sip of coffee before I get into this. Get my brain all lubed up there. So let's go through the questions. Just dive right into them. Again, remember, these are 10 questions that are questions for CISOs prompted by the SEC regulations. Of course, we've talked about that before. Number one, what does the company's risk landscape look like, and what is the company's current cybersecurity risk profile? Now, would the CISO be able to answer option one? Probably, but probably wouldn't be the one to determine that. That's something that the board and the C-suite, assuming those are the ones asking the questions, would already know. Now, the cybersecurity risk profile, definitely need to be prepared about that. How does the company keep the fort secure, and how does it manage cybersecurity risks? Well, that's kind of two questions in one there. Are you really going to dive into the intricacies of technical controls and keeping the, quote, fort secure? You got to be able to learn how to speak in their language. Talk about this. I often say that the CISO's greatest asset as far as their skill set is the ability to translate between highly technical and risky concepts into business speak. What does this mean for the business? If you can't do that, you're not ready to be a CISO. Is the company ready for a storm? Does it have an incident response plan? Hopefully the board of directors, C-suite would already know that, because hopefully at the very least the C-suite has already participated in such. Tabletops. I'm a fan. They're not an end-all, do-all. Just because you do a tabletop exercise annually to check that box on your favorite compliance framework doesn't mean that you're going to be all set for when it actually happens. But at the very least, you're exercising muscles. Is the company winning? What cybersecurity metrics does it track? Metrics. I would always say that the metrics that you're tracking is different than the metrics you're presenting. The metrics you're tracking should be those that are going to tell you, the security professional, what the environment is looking like from a threat perspective, from a risk perspective. But then when you're reporting it, how do you want to tell that story? Two different buckets. You might really, really, really want to know how many attempts your firewall blocked, but that's not something the board cares about. What are the company's crown jewels, and how does it guard them? I wish we could retire the terminology crown jewels. I've been to the Tower of London. I've seen the crown jewels. They're great. They're wonderful. But let's just talk about what it is that we're doing. Words matter. Where are your critical information assets? Well, how do you define that? Those assets where if they were compromised or you couldn't get access to them would be a big problem for the business. But those are good questions. How does it guard them? That gets down to the controls. How does the company stay ahead of threats? That gets into threat awareness. You, at the very least, for mid-sized businesses at least and up, check into your sector ISAC. Number 7, are the company's allies trustworthy? So third-party risk management. Now, that may or may not fall within the CISO as far as the direct responsibility. A lot of times, vendor risk management is another function of an organization, but works hand in hand with CISO. Does the company foster a security conscious culture? And then there's, well, what is it? Cybersecurity training and awareness programs. So those are two different questions there too. So I guess there's been 20. That's why this segment's taking a while. Culture, I've gotten pushback on what do you mean by culture before, and it's kind of difficult to wrap into a quantified statement. But it's not there when it's not there. You have that feeling. So awareness and training is part of it, but it's also a mindset and understanding that it dovetails with other aspects of company culture. Ideally, the most successful company are those that are not coming there for a paycheck, but coming there to actually be a part of something special. So I would submit that cybersecurity culture is part of company culture, and overall that should be enhanced. You should really care about what it is you're doing. Does the company invest wisely? Cybersecurity budget. This is, I guess, where maybe I'll plug FAIR, quantitative risk assessment, or whatever taxonomy you like as far as quantitative risk assessment goes. At the very least, I always like to say that you can use something like FAIR to show that you're spending $10,000 to solve a $100,000 problem, cost exposure. It's not perfect, never is, but it gets you in the ballpark. Finally, can the company control the narrative during a crisis? Well, that's now going to be probably outside of the CISO, because more likely than not, the CISO is not the one who is or should be communicating. You've got a whole marketing and communications team for that. Legal definitely needs to be involved. Leverage them and go from there. So good article, good things to think about on this Friday, going into here in the United States this long weekend. And I do hope that you have a wonderful weekend. Check out college football. For me, I'm looking forward for an upset. Middle Tennessee State over Alabama. Probably not going to happen. Wish I could make it Tuscaloosa, but it's going to be an interesting game. We'll see about all that on Monday. Wrap it up. Talk about some scores. And until then, stay secure.